Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Tom Sawyer Show here on HBC TV 25. I'm Justin Barrientos. We are brought to you by Wellington's Pub and Grill. And joining us, as always, head coach Tom Sawyer. And this is always a tough episode because it's the end of the year. It's your kind of season wrap-up. Let's talk first about the Concordia St. Paul game, and let's start at the beginning because I've been saying to anybody that I talk to, this is the craziest beginning that I think I've ever seen in any football game. Bob Ernest said he's never seen anything like it during the broadcast. I'd like to get your thoughts on it because it seemed to really come out of nowhere. Maybe Concordia was just trying to amp themselves up, looking for their first winning season since 2011, but I didn't know if there was any bad blood between the two teams.
There really isn't. They keep trying to make it some rival game, and there really isn't one. We don't really recruit the same kids, or very few. So I don't know. It's a disgraceful, if you ask me, and I think it's really disrespectful to the game itself. Yeah. And it all started out by them kind of had a few kids earlier in the day that were out there kind of stomping around on the logo and just being foolish. And our kids got wind of it, and then and then I was worried about our own kids because I'm like, okay, why do we even care about this?
Right.
But when they came out as a team before the game, and you're talking about, and the whole team went out there, that was orchestrated, and I was disappointed because it seemed to be accepted, and the officials knew about it. I talked to them before the game, and I said this could happen.
Okay.
And it happened in Michigan State a while back, so this is where they get these crazy ideas. But it really bothers me as a guy that's a traditionalist when it comes to the game itself, and we've been working so hard on our discipline and our team over the course of the year, and we really handled it well. We had a couple of kids we had to back up a little bit, but it was sad. It's, again, like you said, it's the first time you've seen something like that, but there's 2 penalties and the kid gets thrown out and we haven't even kicked off yet.
Right.
And it's really disheartening when it comes to college sports because that's not what we're all about. So
you spoke to the referees before the game. Did you, in fact, say anything to your team just to say, don't even react to this?
Oh, absolutely. I knew it was coming. You just knew it. And, one of their coaches had posted something earlier about, beat Winona and the biggest rivalry, and we're like, I don't understand where this is all coming from. But nonetheless, I did talk to our team about it in pregame, talked to them down in the locker room before the game, and again at halftime, and I thought we handled it really well because it could have got really bad really fast, and our kids kept their composure, and I was very proud of that.
All right. Well, you did have a very good start to the game. You jump out to a 14-point lead over Concordia. Talk about the first couple minutes of the game and actually first quarter, really into the second quarter, how things went for your team.
Yeah, I thought, we played at a pretty fast pace at the beginning. I thought our kids, we started to execute pretty well, and I thought, okay, this is going to go well. And then their defense turned up against us a little bit, kind of exposed some young kids we have, and all of a sudden they started putting a little more pressure on Owen, and then he struggled a little bit, and I got hit a couple times hard, and so offensively we kind of fell off a little bit, and I think our defense played pretty solid for the majority of the game, and then they got their running game going with the quarterback run game and the inside, the little PT game that they were running, but so it was a kind of a game of momentum, but the one thing that was really steady I thought was our special teams. Yeah. We did a nice job with that, and Mike Russell punted the ball well when we had to, and so the most part of it, we handled the game really well. We just couldn't put points up on the board when we had to. After turnovers and those kind of things, we just couldn't convert those. So overall, it was kind of a disjointed game.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we bring in John Rumson, he comes in and drives it down, and we score a touchdown and win the game. So I'm excited about the way it went, and like I told our guys, anything you can do to find a way to win, it doesn't matter what it looks like. At the end of the day, we're 8-3, and with what we've been all through, I'm okay with that.
All right. Well, I want to dive a little bit deeper in the game, but before we get too far, I want to go back towards the beginning of the game because I worry about setting a precedent on the show. Elliot Cox was on here last week, and he kind of put the idea out there to get that halfback option to throw a touchdown pass, and there it was right early in the game. Was that kind of in your mind to plan that out early on?
Yeah, we talked about it on the day after the game last week, and we put it on our playlist. It was on play number 3, and we were going to run it if we got close enough. He had bruised ribs really bad, so he didn't practice all week, so he never threw a ball all week, but we thought, well, he could throw at least 20 yards. So we did it, and then the corner sank so deep that we really didn't even have a chance to fake to him, but he almost pulled it off.
Right.
So we gave him a shot, and that's what sports about, is giving kids opportunities like that when they arise. And so, yeah, it was planned all week.
All right. Well, it was nice to see it. It interesting to see that play happen so early on in the game. All right, so let's get back to the game itself. So then second quarter, Concordia scores towards the end of the second quarter to kind of get closer in the game. And then as the second half moves along, they inch up and grab a lead. And that, what are you thinking on the sidelines at that point? What are you telling your team?
Well, I was just kind of probably like everybody else. One is we were frustrated, and we went into halftime. We were frustrated, and I'm like, we forgot we're winning the game here. We're up by 7. Calm down. We'll be all right. But they did have the momentum going into the half, and I just said, we just go out. We need to make a play. So I was kind of just waiting for one of the groups to make another play. And we had a couple picks. We had like 4 picks in the game, but you start looking at that. It's like we didn't convert those.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we needed one of those things to happen to get that momentum back. And then I thought that they would just basically go to sleep, because we had a lot to continue to play for, where they were just trying to hold on to stay above 500. And and it took almost the very last drive to do that. But I was just kind of waiting for that to happen and trying to stay calm and keep our kids under control, because there was a lot of stuff going on in the game. And I thought we handled it well. And
then Chris Garrett for Concordia St. Paul, 3.5 sacks in the game. How disruptive was he to what you were trying to do out there?
Yeah, he had 7.5 the last 2 weeks. I mean, he's a man, and he played well, much better than I thought he was from film. And he was up against our freshman offensive tackle. It was not a good matchup. Then we put it back on to help him a little bit, and that helped a little bit. But he's just a really good football player, and kind of the way the style that they play allows him to just kind of do what he has to do to get to the quarterback, and he's very good at it.
You alluded to it too, that there were a lot of interceptions in the game. I think Isaiah Hall had a couple, and ended up being a big total for you. That's kind of the identity that you thought you had at the beginning of the season, and it showed throughout the season and then in the final game.
Well, Coach Curtin's here today to talk a little bit more about it too. But the goal is to always try to get at least 3 turnovers in a game and get your hands on a football. And we even had a couple drops. So we knew that quarterback would throw some interceptions, and we had to get our hands on them. And when we did, we turned into some nice gains. And that's a big part of football. It's a big part of our defense, is to create those turnovers. And then we can get them converted, and it really stings. And so when we did that throughout the year, that's when the score starts to spread apart. This time we just didn't convert them, but it did stop a lot of drives, especially when they had momentum.
All right, and this game kind of turned into a classic back and forth in the later part of the third quarter and into the fourth quarter. Let's talk through the ending of the game. So Owen Burke gets hit. He's out of the game. First of all, how is Owen Burke?
He's fine. Yeah, he's good. He did have a concussion, and I think it happened earlier in the game probably. He got sacked pretty hard and kind of went to the turf kind of a thing, and he continued to play. And then we started seeing signs, so we got him to the doctors and then pulled him out. And he couldn't go anymore that day, but John Rums's been in games, so we were fine. Let's roll and move forward. But he's doing well.
All right, so then you bring John Rumsa into the game, and he basically has the game in his hands with a couple minutes left to go in the fourth quarter, and engineers a drive that ends with a Connor Schultz touchdown.
Yeah, and Connor Schultz is the other part of the equation. I mean, Connor just really played well. It's like Isaiah Franson really dominated the first half, and Connor came back, made a big catch on their sideline, then got the touchdown catch kind of behind the kid, and it was really played well. So those two teamed up and timed up pretty well. But John was pretty calm, didn't do everything right, but at the same time he did what we had to win, and that's kind of what his MO is, just find a way to get the job done.
And it was great to see the enthusiasm too on the sidelines as this drive is moving on, and everybody is still into the game towards the end, and you come away with the win, and then just kind of celebration afterwards.
Yeah, that's kind of how we planned it, just to try to sell more popcorn and keep people in their seats, because it was a nice cold day, and
right.
But yeah, it's college football, this time of year, and you look back, going back, and you go, okay, here we are, week 11, we're still playing for something, and you have a game to finish like that. It kind of propels you into the off season. So our guys are ready and excited, and here we go. Who's up next?
Yeah, right. So we go back to this a little bit, saying that it's kind of disappointing that the playoffs weren't there at the end, and then Minnesota State Moorhead ends up winning the game against St. Cloud, first win over St. Cloud since 1983, I believe.
Right.
And so then they go to the Mineral Water Bowl. But still, an 8-3 season, it's a very good season, and really nothing to hang anybody's head about.
No, it's just, we have such high expectations. I mean, we're here to win championships. I mean, but there's a lot of coaches right now be sitting in a room with 8 wins, and they'd be really happy people, and we are too. But we go back to the 1-point loss where we took 12 points off the board basically down at Upper Iowa, and otherwise we'd be playing this weekend in a playoff game because there's one 2-loss team in the tournament. So you start looking at what could have, but it's just speculation. Right now the season went as it did, and as guys started falling, those young kids that came in, or people changed positions, or we had to change our schemes to fit different players. I mean, it was as most erratic season as we ever could have from a coaching perspective too, because every week we had a different, who's available to start the week. So it was really frustrating, but to win 8 games like this, we've done it now 14 times in the times that we've been here, so feel pretty good about it overall. But our expectations aren't to lose any, and we lost 3 big ones, and one of those would have got us in the postseason.
All right, and I don't want to skip over this, but how great was it that the game was then sealed by one of your seniors getting an interception?
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. He just, Josh didn't play a lot for us, and he's a very prideful kid, and I wish he got on the ground a little quicker. So our own guys had to tackle him. But the biggest thing is, there's a kid who just, kind of waiting his turn, and he was frustrated and trying to find his own place here on our team as a transfer kid, and so he was in and out of the lineup and on some specials and doing some different things. And so for him personally to get that pick at the end of the game with a senior, and last game ever for him too, and it's just fun for him and his family. His parents were here from Utah and that kind of stuff, so it was fun for that, and it was a fun way to finish the game. The place went crazy, and it was a lot of fun. All
right, we're going to take a break here on the Tom Sawyer Show. We're going to continue wrapping up the season. We'll talk a little bit about what the Warrior offense did this season with Cameron Keller right after this.
With so many new items on the menu at Wellington's Pub and Grill, you're in for some tough decisions. 6 different salads, homemade soups, huge wraps, juicy steaks, the Wells' own smokehouse ribs, and as always, the best burgers in town. See, we told you it wasn't going to be easy. Log on to wellingtonspubandgrill.com for daily lunch and evening specials. With so many choices for lunch and dinner, you can never come to this well too often.
And welcome back to the Tom Sawyer Show here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Wellington's Pub and Grill. We're going to talk about the Warrior offense this season with Cameron Keller. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I look back at the interview that we did at the very beginning of the season where we were talking about what you wanted to do with the offense this year. And as in years past, you wanted that balance of the run and the pass. How well did you do on that this year?
Well, I think to start the season, we were right where we wanted to be. I think as Coach alluded to earlier, as the season wore on, and we had guys in different positions, and we had to try to kind of reinvent the wheel, so to speak. I think we turned into a little bit more pass-heavy offense just because that was where the majority of our healthy kids were. We had 4 different offensive line combinations up front, and to be able to have continuity in the run game, we struggled a little bit with. And so I think we figured out that we needed to throw the ball a little bit more, especially later in the season. I think you saw us throwing it on 3rd and 1 a few more times than you probably would have. But that was really where we felt like we had the best chance to be successful. So I think that statistically we were probably pretty close to being 50-50. But we threw the ball about 20 more times than we ran it. The reality was it just where we started to where we finished, really we looked like two different systems.
Now, I know that it's not your main focus, that's why Coach Holtzclaw is there, but you mentioned the offensive line and all the different rotations that you had to do in the offensive line because of injuries. How much does that affect what you do overall in calling the offense when you have that many changes on the offensive line?
It can have a big influence, and some of that is the way I call plays, where last year I had the luxury that I could run, we could get in a formation and I could run either way. We got to a point where I probably was a little bit more left-handed just because Carter and Collin Valley were on our left side towards the end of the season. And when when you're getting those situations when you're struggling, you want to go at the guys that you feel the most comfortable with. And so I do think that I probably got a little bit more run heavy towards those guys just because I was comfortable with it. We still tried to run the other way, but it does make a difference, and it'll hamstring you a little bit if you let it.
All right.
One of the things that we talk about every Sunday is kind of where we're going with the guys that we have that particular week. And why don't you share how difficult that is when you have these 2 receivers and you got that running back that's healthy, and then how does your game planning have to change week to week?
Well, I think it's just trying to figure out how can we put the kids that we have that week in the best situations to be successful. We look at matchups especially on the outsides. I think you saw that on Saturday against Concordia. The quarterbacks knew, regardless of who was in, they knew that we wanted to stay away from number one. And you saw that with the touchdown throw that John had, that I think if one would have walked over and lined up on Connor, we probably would have thrown the same route to Isaiah. We had 2 routes on the outside that were mirrored, and then we had a pick route from 2 and 3. So we had some options, but we knew we wanted to go at that guy. And those are things that we talk about a lot. As far as the running game goes, we had different issues with the running backs, and some of them are really good in our G scheme, and some of them are better in the inside zone scheme, and you have to be aware of all that stuff. And so, yeah, Sundays and Mondays for us were a little bit of a challenge over the last 6 weeks. But I think at the end of the day, what I'm probably the most pleased with offensively is our guys, regardless of how choppy the product might have looked the last 6 weeks, our guys played for 60 minutes every week. And our guys, I thought, really played well in the fourth quarter, especially the last few weeks, to be able to win some games, close out the game at Augie. And that's the most important thing for me, because we've been preaching to them about finishing, playing 60 minutes. It doesn't matter what happens in the first quarter, it's what happens in the fourth quarter. And when time expires, we want to be on top. And I'm proud of our kids that, regardless of who was playing and what situations we had injury-wise, our kids fought through it, and they were able to win 6 of their last 7.
All right. If you had to give an overall grade to the offense this year, what would you give it?
I think we threw the ball about 500 yards more than we did last year, but we rushed for about 500 yards less than we did last year. So with 1 less game, statistically, we were probably a little bit better than we were last year. I think with where we started, we came out of fall camp, our expectations were through the roof for the group. But the injuries really did take a toll. You lose Jake Ballou, you lose Tanner Gran. We lost Joel Miller, who had started 27 straight for us at right tackle. I'd say we're probably at a B. We've got a lot of things to work on, but I think when we watch film every Sunday, we weren't as far off as we thought. I just think a lot of it was with the movements of guys into new positions, people weren't comfortable. And when guys get uncomfortable, sometimes you don't see them playing to their top level. And I think that's exactly what we saw the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, last thing I have for us, Cam, is just as you look forward now, and Owen's a sophomore, and we got all our running backs except Eric Berth back. We got a lot of kids coming back. We're losing Isaiah Franson, but most of the receiving core is back. What do you look forward to most here in the offseason?
I think for us, this younger group up front is really exciting. I think the quarterbacks are really excited about being able to get some guys in front of them that are bigger. If we can get bigger and stronger and be able to give our quarterbacks more time, we got to get better in protecting the quarterback. And I think the more that we can protect the quarterback, the easier it's going to be to run the football, because it's going to bring the extra guy out of the box. They're going to have to defend the pass because our guys are going to have more time to throw. I was really pleased with the fact that we threw 6 less interceptions this year. So I'm really excited about where the passing game is going. We got to cut down on the drops. We had almost 40 drops. And it cost us 2 games. I mean, it cost us the Mankato game and it cost us the Upper Iowa game. And those are things that we got to continue to work with our guys on. But I think all things considered, with that group coming back as young as they were, and then the youth that we're adding into it, I think we're going to get back to where we were and being able to do all the same things that we've done in the past.
All right, Coach Keller, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on a great season.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break here on the Tom Sawyer Show. We'll talk defense with Brian Curtin right after this.
Elevate your HBC TV experience with the latest technology to hit your whole home entertainment system. Record up to 6 programs simultaneously and save up to 350 hours of your favorite shows. Pause a program you're watching in one room and pick right up where you left off in another. Video on demand, wireless set-top boxes and mobile device streaming, apps including Alexa, Netflix, YouTube, and more. Call 888-474-9995 to learn more, or visit hbci.com/elevate today.
Stay up to date with Winona Area Public Schools by watching Making the Grade here on HBC TV 25, presented by Cost Cutters. Join me, Superintendent Rich Dahman, each month for interviews with administrators, district staff, and students. Tune in to Making the Grade Monday through Friday here on HBC TV 25, brought to you by Cost Cutters of Winona, located in the professional building in the Winona Mall Annex.
And welcome back to the Tom Sawyer Show here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Wellington's Pub and Grill. And joining us now is Brian Curtin to talk about the defense for the Warriors this year. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
You know, one of the main themes that we talked about week in and week out is the injury situation. And Coach talked about all the different games that were lost because of injury and the different combinations. Talked with Coach Keller about the offensive line. For you, how were you able to deal with all the injuries that happened? I know that you lost some guys right away at the first game of the season.
You just coach depth. You know, I mean, it's football. People run into each other. People are going to get hurt. I don't think anybody's going to feel sorry for you. You can't sit around and worry about it. You just got to move next man up and get ready to go.
All right. And talk a little bit about, we talked the interceptions. That was a big thing always to try to get the turnovers, and that was big in the win against Concordia.
Yeah, I mean, we work on it all the time, and we take time Fridays in our walkthrough to catch balls and do different things. We emphasize it a lot. I think games are won and lost by turnover margin and causing turnovers, creating field position. And for us, we're not just trying to take the ball; we're trying to score when we get it. I think that was one of the frustrations during the game. I know my guys, if they watch this, they'll laugh at me, but because they're tired of hearing it. But we have a way to score. We practice how to score, and in the Concordia game, we didn't do it. So, we work on those things. We practice those things. We coach those things. And I think our guys take great pride in it.
Okay. You look at, I'm going to go back to just what you mentioned earlier, Justin, and we lost just the fact that you lose a kid like Pridgeon at the linebacker level, you lose a kid like Michael Gomez, one of the best in the league, and then you lose Cam Gavin. So you got the player in each level. Brian, how did that affect really the leadership within the group? Because that really changed the dynamic when we lost those three kids so earlier in the year.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I mean, not only did we lose great players, we lost, some of our captains and things like that, and some of the leadership on the field. I think, excuse me, when you're, especially in the back half where there's so many calls that need to be made, and so just getting us in and out of things and those, that stuff, it makes a big difference for the guys that are just out there playing with them. Guys playing their first starts like Kenneth was. When they have experience around them, it makes it that much easier to do those things. And losing those guys hurt. But all the time in preparation, we talk to guys, you need to be able to do it if you're out there by yourself. But losing that kind of leadership definitely hurt our football team. But it develops more guys for the future. Those guys know how to make all the calls. They should know how to make them anyway. It just puts a little more heat on them in their first action.
We look at really a kid I was thinking about that really handled it the best was probably Kenneth Sanders. Mm-hmm. He became a real force on the football field. But Brian, you've been working with him now for 2 years. How much has he changed from the day he walked into now as I think one of the best safeties in the league?
I think we got what we thought we were going to get. But that first year, we don't get to spend a ton of time with the red shirts because they're down with you guys most of the time. And sometimes those guys struggle with that year, how engaged they are and those kind of things. And then you start to wonder, did I get what I thought I was going to get? Well, when he had the opportunity, he stepped up. He really takes a lot of pride in learning the game, watching film and doing all those things. So when his number was called, he stepped in and took it and ran with it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Same question that I asked Coach Keller. If you had to give your defense a grade for this season, what would you give your defense?
Probably, just without looking through everything this year, probably a B. I think we played really well at times. Our guys always play hard. They give great effort and things like that, but we need to be a little bit cleaner, and some of that might have came with the experience and some of that, guys we lose and whatever, but you can't worry about that. Each kid thinks they should be on the field. Each guy thinks they should be out there, so when they have that opportunity, they got to take it and run with it. And we had a lot of guys do a great job with that. I guess as a coach, you always look at the things that you didn't get done right, and the fourth downs in the Upper Iowa game, and some of those things are the things that, make it a B instead of an A.
All right.
Brian, the last one I have is, looking at the culture which you have, especially in that secondary, but kids that have, really they're playing all those special teams, they're playing a pretty complex system, and yet they're also some of the most prideful kids on the team as well. How do you manage and coach a kid that's involved with everything, probably has 100 and some snaps in a game compared to a running back who might have 15 for the day?
On the defense side of the ball, we try to coach toughness, we try to coach discipline, we try to condition them any way we can. The job that they're trying to do isn't easy, especially when they're in the back half. You know, you got guys that are 180 pounds trying to tackle guys that are 215 taking on linemen. We put them in a lot of tough situations this year. We played a lot of man coverage. We saw a lot of different ways. People attacked us a lot of different ways because of it. And then with the special teams and everything like that, you know, they're out where everybody can see what's happening. They don't get to hide in the middle. So, you know, I think our guys feed off that. We try to encourage, you know, we kind of just lay it out there for them. And the guys that can play back there are going to be mentally tough and you know, got to be tough-minded because sometimes they're going to get in tough spots and get exposed, and they got to be able to bounce back.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us here, and congratulations on a great season.
Thanks.
All right. We're going to take a break here on the Tom Sawyer Show. We'll be back to wrap up the entire season when we come back right after this.
With so many new items on the menu at Wellington's Pub and Grill, you're in for some tough decisions. 6 different salads, homemade soups, huge wraps, juicy steaks, the Wells' own smokehouse ribs, and as always, the best burgers in town. See, we told you it wasn't going to be easy. Log on to wellingtonspubandgrill.com for daily lunch and evening specials. With so many choices for lunch and dinner, you can never come to this well too often.
And welcome back to the Tom Sawyer Show here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Wellington's Pub and Grill. Just kind of closing out the season. I know it's always difficult to say goodbye to the seniors. You had 12 of them this year. We talked a little bit about some of them last week, but who else are you going to miss on this team for next year?
Well, I think that, you know, when you start going down the line, you see a kid like, you know, Will, you know, the Glosson that left us this year, and his younger brother came out for the coin flip, and you know, they're leaving the field with really their own legacy, and it's really meaningful. So you look at a kid like that, Eric Berth we talked about, and Michael Ferrante that are impact players. But there's a lot of their stories in every kid. You talk about Josh Hawes. I mean, all these kids have a personal story that everybody kind of forgets about because they have just a jersey on. Yeah. Well, I look at it as what they've done for us in the time that they've been here. Some have been here a couple of years, some have been here 5 or 6, like an Aiken Major who went through a ton of surgeries and rehab. But he's one of the most prideful kids that we have as a Warrior. So when you see those guys, I was kind of watching them at the end of the game, and you know, they're out there for a long time afterwards, and they walk over and they touch the shield, and you know it's meaningful. Then you know that our program really is working like we all want it to. Everybody wants us to win more games. I get that, so do I. But our biggest victory comes from when those kids graduate, they leave the field knowing that they were in a place that was right for them, and they got the most out of their collegiate experience.
Excellent. All right, so what is next for you now? When do you forget about this season and start thinking about the next season? Has it already happened?
Well, no, I got to get through the show. But no, we had a team meeting last night, actually on Monday night, and you know, we'll have a banquet this weekend just to say goodbye to the seniors. But we're already meeting with our players for their expectations and setting goals for the off season, and we're already doing that as we speak. Excuse me. So we're already into next year because everybody's very excited about it because of what we went through this year. We know we have like a Michael Gomez back for 2 more years. We know we have Nick Pridgeon coming back. Where it does hurt us is it will make a difference on how we recruit.
Sure.
Because now we have those guys for another year where we thought some of them might be gone. But, man, excuse me. Really looking forward to the recruiting season. It's going to be a smaller number where last year we brought in 43 freshmen. This year will probably be between 15 and 20 at the tops. So we have to target our recruits, you know, a little bit tighter and really make sure we get the kid that we need. And right now it's been going very well.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate all the access that you give us during the season. And congratulations on a great season.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right.
It's awesome.
Thank you for joining us here on the Tom Sawyer Show, and we'll see you next time here on HBC TV 25.